So, a while ago now, I was on a week-long set in a fire station in the role of second AD. In this particular fire station, the firefighters had sort of started the first season of a social media series where they basically share little snapshots of their daily lives. And we were called in to make a 10 episode long series of episodes that were like 2 to 3 minutes long. Essentially, the firefighters for the second season wanted to bring in like a proper film crew and to like heighten the production value a little bit. Hi, I'm Laura. I'm a filmmaker and I use this channel to talk about filmmaking, but also more broadly creativity. And I have started a series called Creative Endeavors to take you along on the journey. Okay, I wanted to talk about this set, partially because it was a hard set. It was very exciting, don't get me wrong, but it did require a lot of adaptation. Essentially, there wasn't enough time to either prepare or film, and there was very little budget. This is usually the case in indie filmmaking. I'm not blaming anyone, that's not the point. But this did have consequences on the cast and the crew. On top of that, the project turned out to be quite ambitious, and that meant that the shooting days became quite long as a result. This obviously had an impact on the cast and the crew, and then it kind of started creating tension within the crew and then with the firefighters also. Taking this into consideration, I thought it might be interesting to talk about sets and self-care. What I would suggest is that you take a break before and after a set, like schedule that in so that you can take some mental distance from the set. Like, I struggled with this depending on the role that I have. For example, if I'm the first AD, I struggle to switch off because I worry that there's something that I've forgotten to think about or we're just not as prepared as we could be. But on this set, what really helped me is that the first AD laid boundaries from the beginning. So, for example, she told me that she wasn't going to text me on the weekend or talk about work with me on the weekend, and she wasn't going to text me past 7 p.m. So basically, this helped me deconnect because we both agreed to those boundaries and we both agreed to like really respect them, which means that not only could I switch off, but like I knew that past my working hours, she would want me to switch off. Another thing that I think is important is that you actually enjoy the set experience and that you spend time with the people that you're working with outside of work, essentially. Like, yes, I do know that like you will have a lot of stuff to prepare for the next day, like a lot of tasks to do to prepare for the next day, but try to still enjoy these people that you're working with, because chances are you probably will not spend time with them again once the set is over. I was quite lucky on the set in that we were actually able to do that. Like, we had a lot of laughs and yeah, I met some really incredible people. I think it's really important to learn something from every set that you're on. And yeah, I kind of like reflecting on what my place is on a set and like which spaces I can contribute in terms of like technical skills or personal skills and insight. And also where it would make more sense for me to kind of step back and let other people work. Yeah, so on this set, I got to learn a lot, which was great. There was, yeah, because not only was it in a different country, like it was filmed in France and I'm from Switzerland, but also a couple of the people on the set were either specialized in a specific position or they're professionals. So, for example, one of the directors was a professional script supervisor, and I was really curious to see her method of like looking out for continuity. And I discovered that she had like a tablet and a program on that tablet that connected directly to the camera. So she could take screenshots and video recordings of the footage that was being shot live, which is just super cool to see. The AD that I worked with also taught me a lot in the way that she handled herself, in the way that she handled like the mental load of her position, um, and also in the detail that she went into to think about all of like the practical elements of the set. I also learned from her in the different ways that she grappled to save time anywhere that she possibly could. So yeah, and also little thing. It's more like it's like my personal thing, but I loved the way that some of her documents were set up um, and colorful. I also learned that my softness was valued and was actually seen and felt as like a de-stressor. That was something that was really lovely for me to hear because, not gonna lie, I did feel slightly out of my depth at certain moments during the shoot, so it was good to know that I still had value and still contributed in a positive way. It's also definitely something that I'm going to keep in mind for my future projects. On another really positive note, this sort of opened my eyes to what can be done by a filmmaker at the beginning of their career. One of the directors was 24, 25, and she co-directed and sort of carried this project, this pretty ambitious project, on her shoulders with drive and with ambition. And I'm not gonna lie, I definitely would not have been able to do that yet at this point in my career. And I feel really lucky to have been able to witness that. Another thing that was a fantastic learning experience is that this was filmed in a fire station. We ate, slept, and showered in said fire station. So it's safe to say that we got intimately acquainted with this fire station. Bear in mind, this was very much a functioning fire station, so there were several occasions where the firemen actually had to go off and deal with real life emergencies. I drive like absolute madman. But my point is that we were sort of welcomed into their world and into their space. And I feel really privileged because it really, really was an interesting experience. And yes, we did indeed go. The last important lesson that I want to share with you is to, even at the beginning of your career, when you're presented with an opportunity, please do try to negotiate as much as possible better conditions for you and your crew, especially when that comes to either time or money. I know that it can be really scary to do that because you are worried that you're gonna literally lose the opportunity. But I think it's important, especially when you're dealing with people who don't work in the film industry. They might just not be aware of some of the requirements. And therefore, I do think it's really important to have that communication. Does that mean that you're going to get what you ask for? No. Sometimes it's just not possible. But I do think that you should at least try. Like, at least try to get slightly better conditions for your team. Because that will positively impact the entire experience of the set, truly. Okay, now we come to the sort of post-set situation. You're all done and you return to civilization, as it were, because we had been hidden away for an entire week. No, this is sort of like it's kind of the relief moment. I personally slept like a big baby for 12 hours the first day that I got back. It was absolute heaven. Thank you so much for wondering. Sets, generally speaking, are quite a humbling experience. You're often learning and adapting on the go, and that sometimes means that you make mistakes. And some people will kind of point that out, especially if they're tired. Once the set is done and you return home, it's often the time when you're processing a lot of the stuff that happened on the set that you probably didn't have time to deal with as, the chaos was unfolding. All that to say that I do think it's important to think about self-care also post-set because, Um, what I would suggest is to kind of slow down, like intentionally move your body, stretch, journal, maybe to process some of the stuff if you need to, and take the time to eat. Like cook and take the time to eat and look after yourself. Yeah, like treat yourself like a little king or queen or monarch, whatever. Like I'm just trying to remind you to be really gentle with yourself and like slowly reconnect with your friends. You don't have to immediately address some of the stuff that you weren't able to address whilst you're on set. It's also a thing that like people can get a little bit depressed after a set because it was kind of your whole life for a hot second, and then suddenly once the project is over you're like, oh, that's done, what do I do with my life? It's a weird situation because you kind of get thrown randomly with this group of people. You get this total immersion and then they disappear from your life. And you know what? 100% honesty, I'm a little bit of an emotional slut, so I get attached quite easily. And now that it's done, I kind of assess people and their like slightly ridiculous humor. But yeah, so don't judge yourself if you get a little bit emotional after a set. It's normal. Yeah. On that note, I think this might be where I love you and leave you. Thank you so much for watching and see you again in the next video. Bye bye.